Unahaganisinga, Zanabechu, Nabimiya Dachina. Welcome back, everyone, to Rising Warriors. Rachael Kulei. I am enrolled member of Northwest Band Shoshone Nation from the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming. And today I have our lovely Tristen Jenni here with us. And so, for those of you that didn't get to watch my podcast last week with Michaela Madrid, we talked about missing, murdered, and Indigenous women. And so I brought Tristen on today. She's doing some beautiful work that I've been seeing. And it was actually Native Outlaws that put the spotlight on you. And it was kind of interesting though, because I was looking for you, but I had Tristen Jenni down.
Oh,
And so I was looking for Tristen, and I'm like, where is she? I'm like, I can't find her anywhere. She needs to come on here.
like
And so then I just kind of went on. I was like, all right, it'll happen when it happens. And then just last week, I was scrolling and looking at Facebook and things, and then all of a sudden, I was like, there she is. Wait, that's the feather. That's Wait,
that's the
Tristen.
girl.
I had the name wrong. And I was like, it was almost right. And I was like, there
Yeah.
she is. And so I was like, all right, thank you, ancestors. I was like, you brought her to me. I've been looking for her. And so I had your name wrong for a month and was like, I've been like looking for you.
Like, where is
But it's,
she?
yeah, where is this woman? I need
Right.
her.
And then posts come and go so quickly that it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you go and then you go to try to find it again, and it's like you could be scrolling for hours trying to find, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that happens all the time. And I'm like, no, screenshot it. And then I have a million
Yeah,
screenshots. I'm like,
I do
oh,
that too.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, got to remember this person and this person. I'm like, got to reach this person. And
yeah.
so I saw you, and then I was like, that's it. Okay, this is perfect, and it like went right in the alignment with my last podcast. So I'm going to allow her to share with you, a little bit of your people, where you come from, and then she's going to share with you her story of how she came to do the artwork that she's doing right now for the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. So I'm going to let you just go ahead and speak from your heart.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tristen Jenni Sanderson. I'm Plains and Woodlands Cree from northern Saskatchewan in Canada, all the way up here. Yeah. And way like Deschambault Lake. My mom, like my cousins, they all still speak Cree very fluently over there. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is good.
Right.
Still so good. Yeah. Um, yeah. And I'm actually a tattoo artist. I
Okay.
started my my journey a long time ago during, I think it was about 11 years ago when I lost my cousin, Michelle Sanderson. She lived in Edmonton, Alberta, and that's where I currently live now.
Okay.
And she was kind of in the system when she was younger and things like that, and she ended up losing her life, and there was no. I remember being so hurt and so sad because I didn't hear about it on the news. I didn't hear about it in the newspaper or anything like that. And she was left on the street, and she was beaten and she was broken, and then she was just left there for dead, and there was nothing anywhere. And I was like, wow, like she's a person. Why isn't this on the news? Like I heard about it because she's my family. But I was just so shocked, and I was so taken back because of the way she lived. She's still a human being, and
Right.
it hurt. It really hurt me, and it made me feel sad for the world. And that was 11 years ago now. And I remember, I was like, wow, like what can I do? I'm just a person working at like Starbucks. There's nothing,
Right.
And then it was like painting and drawing. And then over the years, I always did kind of like, I would do like memorial things and cards, but it wasn't just things like, like help. And the first one I did was probably about 2 years ago for murder missing Indigenous women, and it had the handprint and stuff too. And then it was a tattoo design. And then over, kind of last in January, I did another one which I called Not Invisible, and it's the woman, and she's looking very strong with the red handprint on her face. And I wanted to show like the strength that we still have, and to show like, you know, the spirits, like we're fighting for you. You know, when we see you, you're not invisible. And that's what that red hand represents to me, was like, you know, because we use war. It's not necessarily only war paint that we paint our faces for. We do it for rituals. You know, every tribe is different for hunting anything. And so I wanted to like show that, to be like, no, like we're still here. We're not going to go quietly. We see you. We see, you know, all our sisters that were stolen from us, and we're not going to remain quiet anymore. And you know, that kind of took off, and it just rolled. That design took, you know, and I was like, wow, like this is amazing. And the Mr. Altridge, he got a hold of me and asked if he could get it as a tattoo. I had probably at least about, I don't know, 100 people ask if they could get that as a tattoo. And I was like, so like humbled and honored that they would, you know, even message to ask. A lot of people just take, you know, and they just,
right.
And I was like so touched by like, you know, our culture and our community, and, you know, people being respectful and asking and reaching out. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And then he had asked if I could paint one of his daughter, Ashley, who he had lost a few months earlier to domestic violence and things. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, I would love to. Thank you for asking. And I did one of his daughter. And then I got, you know, they were so touched by it. And it felt great that they would trust me with something so important, you know, to remember their daughter. And then after that, I got a couple more requests to do more. And I'm like, yeah, you know, definitely, you know, thank you so much. And they were saying thank you to me. And I was like, no, like, this is something special to you and, you know, to me as well. And you're sharing this, like, this gift, you know, I can share with you. That means so much, that I get to share these gifts that were given to me by the Creator.
Right.
Yeah. And then I was, you know, as I'm doing that, there's just like, you know, I think I'm at 120 right now, and I'm still only one person, and it's been since January. So, you know, like there's been
That's
a few
a
times where things got kind of lost in the shuffle, and, you know, I'm trying to reach people and be like, if you didn't get painting, please message me. Like, I'm just one person. Yeah. And so like, I'm just hoping that, you know, when I get out there to help the families heal. You know, I don't post them on my social media because that's not why I'm doing it. You know, if they take me in it, that's, you know, I'm grateful for that too. But like, it's their stories to tell. I just do it, you know, as a gift from the heart. Like when I'm painting, I feel that their energy, you know, and I feel it coming through, and the families are just they're so happy. And that just, I don't know, makes it worth it, because sometimes it gets a little bit hard to hear the stories.
Right.
Yeah. And so I got to take a break every once in a while to be like, okay, I'll step back, and then, you know, I'm going to wait for a week, and I'll do another one, you know, do my smudging and my praying, and, you know, ask for strength, because yeah, it can get a little bit heavy sometimes for all these things and all this injustice that we kind of face. And a lot of people don't, because they don't experience, they don't see it. And then that's what I'm hoping this also promotes, you know, like showing when people ask, like, well, what does this represent? It's like, well, you know, there's so much injustice that happens because our system is built on colonial, like, racism, you know, and they're like, well, no, it's not there. It's like, no, but it is. And it's so accepted that we don't realize it. We're born into it, that we're not realizing that it's there every day, but we feel it and we see it, you know.
Yeah. I was just talking to my best friend about this the other day, you know, about how we're finally, you know, it's like the cycle of abuse. If we want to just talk about abuse, we're always being told, you know, as the victim, be quiet, just, you know, keep your mouth shut, hush, don't say anything. Especially like if things happen within the family, you know, you don't say anything, or that person would never do that. And so there's always this like guilt that's almost like put upon you to like keep your mouth shut and be quiet. Well, it's the same thing with the racism and with all of the trauma that's happened to you know, the Americas, the indigenous people of Americas. And
Yeah.
I'm talking Canada all the way
Right.
down to, you know,
To South.
Mexico, to
Yeah.
the Central Americas, to South America. You know, we're all the indigenous people of America. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, you know, the colonialism that came in, it was like segregated us and put the borders up when, like, a lot of people don't know too, is like Shoshone, my family, we're actually descendant of the Aztecs. And so, you know, so it's like, how are we not related? How many, you know,
Exactly.
there's so many other tribes in the southern, you know, that are also clans, that have clans in the, you know, the Mexicano, in you know, in the I'm forgetting the word, sorry, Monica. But the actual culture and tradition of the my way, I think it's my way, um you know, their language, the ancient language, and you know, that wasn't brought in from Spanish, from, you know,
Yeah.
colonialism, because that's really not even their language either. If you really think about it, it's not. And so it's fine, it's we and but then you go on to all of this other racisms and things that's happening. But now, you know, for a long time we've been told to keep our mouths shut and just, you know, deal with it and suppress it and suppress and
Yeah.
suppress. But now it's like we can't suppress anymore. The more we suppress, it's the like the more we are extinct, I mean. And I hear that all the time, you know, people thinking that Native Americans, indigenous people, were extinct, and we don't exist because we're not walking around in a regalia every day, and
Yeah.
we're wearing clothes just like you guys. And and so it's, you know, finally it's like getting to the point of, like, you know, it's same with the missing, you know, and murdered women, and the girls and the two spirits. We're done being quiet. It's like
Exactly.
we can't be quiet anymore. And people are almost, I'm like watching them, they're like, why are you speaking now? Or like all of a sudden it's like something's changed in you, and it's like, no, something hasn't changed. Well, yeah, something has changed in me. I got my voice, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not afraid to speak my voice. And if the truth hurts of what happened, then maybe we should address this and work on the healing, and, you know, work on how can we change this and move forward, you know, together as a people. And so it's like, so what I'm seeing, like with what you're doing, you're helping people share their voice. You're still
Mm-hmm.
sharing those voices of those, you know, those sisters that have, you know, passed on. And I can only imagine what that feels like, to go and draw each one of those sisters and the feelings and the emotions. And I would probably, you'd probably get visions and, you know, maybe little glimpses of, you know, each person's life that
Mm-hmm.
you know, that many don't even understand, or, you know, it doesn't get talked about. But I see that, you know, you do, you see, you know, that
Yeah, it's
pain.
like that intuition, you know, that feeling. It's there all the time, and it's a gift, and I'm so thankful for it. I really am, that I get to, you know, get to feel and to share with them. And you know, when I'm painting it, um, it's like they're channeling, you know, through me almost. It feels like, because a lot of the families will say I really capture their essence, and it's like, well, when, you know, if you follow our culture and things like that, it really is like that. You know, I've been blessed enough for to be able to share this, and listening to my intuition, and listening to, you know, my dreams and things that come to me. And I'm, you know, my father he was always so proud of our culture and who we were. And he'd always been very, like, you know, be very proud of who you are, and who, you know, where we are and where we come from. And I grew up a lot in, because I lived on reserve and off reserve,
Hmm.
half with my mom and half with my father. And it was, she was very city, since she lived in
Uh-huh.
Edmonton, and my dad was not. And so it kind of came from both worlds, where, you know, one was telling you to be quiet and don't listen to yourself, don't listen to your feelings. You know, yeah, you think the trees are talking to you, that's not real, you know, and these
Mm.
things aren't real. Be quiet, that's not it's not a gift, that's not anything. And you know, and then coming from my father, and it's like, oh yes, you know, every day spirits are talking to us, you know, plants are living, everything is living, everything is you know, giving us something every day. You just have to listen. So it's very, you know, it's very different, and it's a little maddening, you know, coming from the city sometimes and being like, no, if you listen to yourself, it's there. All the power you have is within yourself. And our culture really, you know, represents that, and it shows that in so many ways, to be like our strength, and our ancestors are no longer are living within us and not wanting us to be quiet anymore. And it's like, hey, listen, you know, and as you know, we're getting smarter, and then we're raising our children to really listen to themselves and trust themselves, and not listen to the outside noises anymore, to listen to, you know, our ancestors speaking to us in our visions, in our dreams, in our, you know, every day, and what they lay out in front of us. And it's just so, yeah, and it's just so powerful sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
I really love it. See, this is the thing I love about art with natives, is that people don't really understand, but this is where our storytelling comes through. There's so many different, I mean, you could look at beadwork, you could look at weaving, you could look at painting, carving, jewelry. Each piece has its story.
Mm-hmm.
Each And what I'm finding too is each person has their story and the reason why they even start going into their artwork, and it's healing. It
Mm-hmm.
all has to do with this healing. And you know, it's kind of like with me, I make my own jewelry designs,
Oh
stars designs.
wow.
And so but I started creating mine when I was, because was in stage 4 cancer in 2016, 2017.
Oh wow.
And during that time, yeah,
Yes, yeah, that's
I
intense.
yeah, I had uterine cancer, and they were wanting to give me all these different surgeries and things like that. And I was able to heal myself naturally through herbs and going back to our traditional ways
Mm-hmm.
of healing. So you know, I didn't have to go to do chemo and radiation. But through that time is when I started creating my earrings and my jewelry designs, and um, the stars designs. You know, for me, it's, you know, connecting with the universe, because my name, MMIWG, is it's woman that travels with the stars. And so I'm a star traveler, right? You know, a star child. And so I really connect with the universe and the stars. And so those healing stones started coming through and coming together, and showing all these different ways to help balance the body, and you know, dispel energies and all these different things. And so I started becoming more connected with stones, and then
Yeah.
hearing them. And so that's the other thing, is like, I want to now talk about, can you open that door, is, you know, we're going to go there, you know, the connection with the earth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a hocus pocus. It's not some
It's
just
real life.
made up thing. It's real life. And I remember hearing the trees for the first time when I was a little girl,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, hearing them talk in the wind, and hearing the animals, and being so connected that you could hear their thoughts, and you could you like had this peace and the sense. And like when you go walk into the forest, it was like this presence and this connection was known, that, and it still is. It's like when you walk in, when you're connected in that way, it's like the forest knows, the earth knows who you are, the animals know who you are. And so it's just like this whole other feeling when you're going into that land of connection and being one with it, where you know, those animals, if they come up, if the wolf comes up, you're not going to be fearful, he's not going to be fearful, because they're going to, you see that light in each other, and you
Mm-hmm.
see that connection. And you know, we used to be able to have wolves as, you know, our pets, as if you want to say.
Yeah.
I actually have one of my bear dance sisters, she actually has a wolf that comes in and out and checks on her. And
Oh wow.
he'll actually come into her house and sit in the house and be with her and the dogs. But the moment she leaves, the wolf leaves and goes off into the forest. But the moment she comes back, and she could be gone for a couple weeks, the moment she comes back, that wolf comes. and like knows that she's there. And so it's like we have these connections, and it's so true. And even like I've been camping before and had bears come up beside me and sitting on the side of my tent. And but at the same time, I never felt afraid. I felt I felt at peace. I didn't feel like I was going to be attacked. It felt like it was more like he was sitting there protecting me than anything. And I felt this connection, and I was able to actually fall asleep after I knew the bear was sitting right next to me. Instead of like sitting there with a gun or something and trying to like, I need some type of, like it's about to go down.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Like this connection.
Well, that's what they want to scare us away from too, right? Is our connection to to the animals and to things and to everything, because they don't understand it. A lot of people don't, and they're afraid of it. They want to teach us to be fearful of everything and anything we can, because it helps control.
Yeah.
And so like we're listening now to ourselves, and a lot of people are, which is amazing. It's there's so much community out there, like all of our sorry.
Does he want to come in? He can come say hi.
Say hi. Come and say hi.
So hi. Do you have a message for anybody? Do you have something you want to say?
No.
Okay. I was telling her, Tristen, earlier, because she was asking about, the kids being around and homeschooled. And I was telling her that, no, if they decide to come and poke their head in, come and poke your head in, because in our way, we teach our children, we raise them up. And when they can see you doing things, then they have that knowledge and that experience, and they see, hi, how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing really good.
Are you doing really good? Are you having fun homeschooling?
I want to go to like real school now.
You want to go to real school now? Do you miss
they miss their friends.
Yeah,
you miss your friends? Yeah. But do you like being with mom?
Yeah, too.
Yeah. I liked being with my mom too.
This is Aurora.
Hi, Aurora. I'm Rachael.
I like your name. Really
Thank
cool.
you. I like your name too. It's pretty. I like your glasses.
Thank you.
Okay.
So,
One singing in the corner.
Yeah. So you guys, it's important that we let these little ones interact and see, especially if you're at home and you're doing lives and you're doing all these different things. It's important to let your kids see what you're doing and be a part of that, because you're influencing them, you're showing them, and you're being a role model for them. And one day he's going to be like, oh yeah, or she's going to be, look at what mom was doing.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
and so these little ones, it's important. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, that she and we had already talked about this, but I was like, no, if they decide to come poke their head in, then they need to poke their head in, and see that, because these are our little rising warriors too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And raising them up and things. And so it's really important that we do this, and you walk in that good way, and stay in tune with the spirit. And if you need help with being in tune with your spirit, then there's a lot of natives that are willing to help and talk and
share.
Teach and share.
Yeah.
We're two of them. And we will share that knowledge, because how are we supposed to come into a new way, back into the old way of living in that peace and harmony, if we don't really learn how to love each other in that way,
and build each other up and work with each other, instead of trying to hide and be jealous of one another. It's so damaging to us as people. And it kind of happens a lot. You see that a lot, and it's like, well, especially like sometimes the paintings and things I do too, the other designs I do, some people get upset because sharing stories, and it's like, well, it's important for us to share it to everybody, you know, like to our people and to, you know, other people, our allies and stuff really want to know as well. It's not, you know, it's for everyone. We're all related. You know, it doesn't really matter the color of our skin. We are all related to one another.
Right. Right. And, you know, and it's important to educate each other too, because there's even just education within Indigenous, you know, with each other. And because of all that trauma, genocide and things being hidden and taken away. And a lot of us, you know, we have to go back to staying in that spiritual connected place in order to be able to hear our ancestors, to be able to hear Creator, so that we can know how to walk, what moves to make, how do we, you know, live, you know, keep our ancestors alive, our culture alive, and how do we educate and bring this awareness. And it's by talking, it's by sharing your story, it's by, you know, sharing your artwork, and, you know, really being open and educated. But it's also, you know, yesterday I got a lovely message from someone that was telling me that I'm not Native enough because I didn't go to prison and I didn't grow up in on the res and in the prison system, so therefore I'm not really Native American. And so that kind of like it struck me last night. I was like, oh wow. I was like, this is still happening within our own people, and this hatred within the own people. And so like I want to talk about this too, because you go on and off and I go back and forth. I never got to live on my reservation, but I go back home to my family and I stay there during the summers. So I do go and I live there for the summers. And there's like, you know, this trauma that is happening, and it's like how do we grow as an Indigenous, and how do we move forward if you don't have us natives that go out into the city and get educated, that go out and you know, become lawyers and doctors and these activists and all of these things. How are we supposed to, as a native, if we Indigenous, if we all stay in that place, then how are we supposed to grow? How are we supposed to rise? How are we supposed to move forward? How are we supposed to have our resources and things if we're all in the prison system?
Exactly, and overcome it. And that's actually really, you know, and that's the hard part, because even these damaging stereotypes and stuff like that are within us, like within our communities. And it's like, hey, like we have to open our minds, you know, and open, you know, sometimes when I go back home, there's a lot of jealousy and things like that there. And it's like, but I'm doing this for us, you know, it's for all of us. It's not nothing to do with just me. I'm trying to teach our children and to show our children, like, you can come from, you know, not having a home or whatever, and then grow up to like, hey, look at where I am and look what I can do, and you can do this too. We can all do this, like, you know, and
that's so true.
You know, and that's like such a big thing, because you know, they're like, well, you're not Native enough because, you know, you're not doing this, or you didn't grow up full time on the res, or you didn't, you know, you don't do this and you don't do that. And it's like, well, no, but my spirit, you know, I still am, even though, you know, the ancestors still speak to me too. It's not, you know, just because I didn't grow up in this kind of way or whatever. Not all of us are going to be like that. And that's, you know, trying to open people's minds to seeing that. And, you know, hopefully technology is helping us.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's so true, because like my mom, she, you know, grew up on the res, and then she was, you know, she moved all over the place. My grandma was in the army, and so she just had that in her to just constantly move. So she was, I don't even know how many schools she went to throughout her life, because of how many times she moved. But when she got married, she moved to the city, and for her, she was like, I want my children to have a fighting chance. I want them to be educated, like our grandfathers said, and, you know, learn these ways of the white way and be educated so that we can do something for our people and make a difference for our people. And, I love, there's a lot of people that are now rising to this and stepping up and, finally speaking to and being like, you know what, we have to be out here in the city. And don't you realize that we're doing things for you on the res so that we can come back to the res and have these resources so we don't have to rely on outside resources. And if we aren't educated, then how are we going to be able to do that if we stay in this genocide of alcohol and drugs and addiction and abuse? And how can we rise and move forward if we keep staying in these systems?
Yeah,
And
we'll never heal. We'll never heal if we stay like that.
No, we're never going to heal, and we're just going to keep creating this trauma for the next 7 generations and the next 7 generations. And I really know that, like, for us, this is like the time where this trauma is supposed to stop. We're supposed to rise up to the occasion and fix this so that these little ones over here don't have to grow up in this trauma, and that shift and that things change, in a different, beautiful way of living, and not this ugliness, because it happens, within our own people, and it's really heartbreaking in a way.
It is.
It made me sad yesterday, for a moment, to see that and hear those words, you're not native enough unless you're on the res and all this, and like it was triggering trauma for my ex-husband that he was Navajo. And so, I lost my language. My grandma barely spoke it. She knew it, but it kind of went with her when she passed. And so now I'm going, to Utah, University of Utah, to learn the Shoshone language that they have in the school there. But even then, it's Eastern Shoshone, and it's a little bit different. It's not Northwestern Shoshone. And so, we're still go through these things. And so it was like triggering, like almost in a second, and hearing my own family from the past of being like, well, you're not really native because you live in the city, and you live in this home and blah blah blah. And it's like, but I am. And it's just like you said, it's like it goes back to my heart. It goes back to where I live every day in my life, and that is in that native way. It doesn't matter where I live. I could live in Europe and I'm still going to live in our traditional ways. I could live in Africa. It's in me. It doesn't matter. I could be in Antarctica and I'm still gonna be in this way. That's who I am.
Exactly. And it doesn't even matter, like, the percentage, people try to, always measure. It's always measuring something. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter, whether or not this person only has 10% or whatever percent they have. And it's like, no, because it matters what spirit they have. That's what matters. It doesn't matter about percentage. It's how the ancestors speak to them through them.
Exactly.
That's how, that's what matters. And, they're telling it. And they're healing and they're helping other people heal. That's what should be looked at. It shouldn't be, whether or not, like, oh, well, you didn't live such a really damaging life that you don't count, and you don't, and that's always kind of a big thing.
Right. Well, you didn't have this trauma. And it's like, well, you don't know the trauma I had out here in the city. Like, it's still that generational trauma still follows you, whether you're on or off the reservation. It doesn't matter. We still go through it.
Exactly. It took me a really long time. I remember being young because, and I was always picked on because, like, either I was like the only Native kid in the class or something. I was always picked on. And it took me a long time to be really, really proud, I guess, of who I was and where I came from. Because naturally, I was always very, very gifted with drawing, like, the stuff I draw now all the time is just naturally always there. And I always tried to fight it all of the time. Like, my father was very like, just be proud, like, you don't see these people on TV that look like you or, that are achieving these big things. Cause I was just young. Right. And I was like, they don't look like me, and stuff like that. And when you're a child, you don't understand it. And as I got older, I was like, wow, like, I love who I am and I love where I come from. I don't know why I was so not ashamed, but I just wasn't proud when I was younger. I loved it when I was young, and I would go out and pick medicines with my dad and do all those things. I was so happy and lucky enough to experience all of that and grateful for that. But, you know, coming back, I wouldn't talk about it with my friends and things like that, because I'm like, no, they'll make fun of me and stuff.
Right.
And yeah, and it's like, man, like living in the city is, it's, you're constantly pushing down what your spirit wants to do. It seems like all the time, you know, you weren't allowed to show it. You'd be the weird one or something.
Right.
And then now,
and you have to like hide in, you have to blend in a way.
yeah, exactly. And then, you know, as I hit my teenager years, I was just like, oh man, I really don't care what all these people think. I really, you know, nobody, you know, you don't affect me. Like, you can affect yourselves, and, you know, you can say what you want and be what you want, but that's just you. You're self-reflecting on yourself and not doing me any good. So I'm not going to listen to that.
Right.
You know, and it's like, all I can do is just be me. And if you want to ask, you can ask. If I'm doing these things and you want to ask what I'm doing, that's totally fine. You know, and I'm really hoping, and that's what I'm trying to do with my children too, and then future people, to be like so proud of who they are and don't hide it, you know. And like, I do a lot of custom portraits for families too, like of just little girls, especially the ones that want to dye their hair blonde, or they want to be something so different, you know. And you know, a lot of kids in foster care here are Indigenous, and some of them foster parents are, you know, Caucasian, and they're like, oh, well, we want to bring her culture and show her, and, you know, and then they come to me and be like, can you paint her a picture like this, you know, kind of describe the things in the painting. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to, you know, I would thank you for asking me to do that, because it's so important, especially in that system, for them to know where they come from and who they are, and to be proud of it, to be so proud of, you know, our ancestors and where we come from. And all the knowledge we have inside us already, it's just waiting to be unlocked.
Exactly, because it's in our blood. It's in our DNA. And it's people don't realize, like, when you have that imprint in the DNA, you could literally especially when you're Indigenous, you have this like abundant of things of information you could unlock within yourself through your ancestors, if you're connected and you're in tune with that. And you know, they can come through and they can come be with you. But I also noticed too, is like, you have to be walking on that good path. You have to be, you know, walking on that red road and living a good life. You can't be over here, you know, being destructive to your body and your, you know, your temple, your spirit, or else you're not going to be able to be in tune with your spirits, the ancestors and things. You're going to be more in tune with entities that are going to try to keep you down and keep you suppressed in those places, so you don't rise and you don't get out and you don't, you know, get that help and that healing. And so that's where we're like, I see that too, is, you know, where we have all of this trauma, but yet at the same time, it's like we don't have those resources like we used to with medicine people, to be able to go and get those healings, to go get those ceremonies, to go to that sweat lodge, and to show
us how to heal within ourselves, like.
Yeah, and you have to be very in tune to be able to tap into that too, to see and know how you can heal yourself within yourself. You know, and then, you know, and then it's another thing too, is to be able to be in tune, to be guided to those people that can help you. And so that you can hear in your mind. But then that's where, you know, society wants to tell you, oh, you don't hear things in your head. Oh, you're hearing things in your head. We need to put you in the loony bin. We need to, you know, you need these.
Take all these prescriptions here.
Yeah,
this will help you. Oh, by the way, these are kind of addictive as well at the same time. So sorry, like.
Yeah, exactly. Or and then it's like, oh, it's doing this to you. Well, then now you need to take this medication, and you take this medication, and before you know it, you're like taking handfuls of pills every single day, and you feel worse than you did before you saw the doctor. And you know, so it's like, you know, you got to go back to the natural herbs and the, you know, natural things of life. And, you know, it's the society again, you know, of the suppression of, you know, witchcraft, that's witchcraft. You
Exactly.
don't play with, herbs and things like that. You go to the physician, you go to the medical doctor, and you listen to them, and you don't dabble with this natural healing stuff over there, because that's witchcraft, and it's against, Christianity, and it's against Catholic, and it's a religion. So, it's kind of like taboo. We don't play with that stuff, and you don't talk to spirits, and only appointed people are allowed to talk to the creator, and you don't get to talk to creator. I've been told that in religion. And when I was talking to a bishop, he told me that I could not talk to creator, and I was not the prophet, and that I could not have revelation for myself.
Wow.
And I've had a really hard time wanting to go back. That was 2 years ago, and ever since then I've had a hard time wanting to go back to church. And because I grew up in both ways, in tradition and in Christianity.
Yeah.
And so, but sitting down with this bishop and just hearing him when I was just trying to plead, because where I was in my cancer, and I was in a really hard time and was needing someone to help me. And instead it was, the whole thing again of, just take it. No, your husband doesn't beat you. No, he doesn't do these things. This is in your head. You don't get to talk to creator you don't get to talk to God like that. Only the prophet gets to talk to God like that. You don't get to have these visions and these dreams and things like that. You're not allowed to have that. And so he was like sitting there telling me this, and I'm just like, it broke my spirit in a way. I was like, I felt like my ancestors again, going through that thing again, where they're telling you that, no, you don't get to do your medicine. No, you don't get to live,
Like you're just
this
getting
way.
more repressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you don't get to be, spiritual and have these gifts. And it's like, but this is who I am. And it's like, so we're supposed to be connected in our spirit, and you're supposed to be guiding, children of creator, but you're over here telling me like
Not to
dismissing
listen.
me and not to listen. Like, no, like you can't have those gifts. And so it was, people don't realize the things that we go through in this too, because we're trying to, go and fit. We're trying to, where do we belong in this world that we were basically like shoved out of?
Exactly. And constantly repressed, and being like, well, you don't listen to yourself, don't listen to yourself, don't listen to yourself, don't believe in yourself. Nothing you say is, true or valid. And so it's like, a lot of it's hard, to come out and be like, okay, like, so these are the gifts that I have, and this is, and a lot of people I notice, especially Indigenous people, are very, very shy, and they, we have a hard time showing our spirit and who we are because of past things. And, for example, that, and him telling you, no, you don't get to talk to the creator, and you don't get to do these things. And it's like, but that's just dampening your soul and your, who you are as a person.
Exactly. Or like the other one I've heard too, and someone commented, and I've gone through this too, is, if you don't speak your tribal language, then creator isn't going to hear you, or your ancestors aren't going to hear you. And I've had cousins tell me that before, before I went into Sundance, and saying, if you don't know how to speak Shoshone before you get into Sundance, they're not going to hear you in there. And telling me that my ex-husband, he would always tell me, you don't speak in your language, your ancestors and creators not listening to you. They don't hear your prayers because you're speaking in English. And then he would say, that's the devil's language. So he says, so you're not even really speaking and praying in your language, so they're not going to hear you, so your prayers are no good.
Wow.
And so it's, it's taken me a while to even be able to pray in front of other people. And so those that don't know, every time I start my podcast with everybody that I go on, I say a prayer with them before I go on and we go live. And and I ask for our ancestors to be with us. And so, and I pray in a good way. And so every podcast I do, I pray. But you know how hard that is for me to do that because of the trauma that has happened to me. But yeah, I do it because I know the importance of it. And I see, when we always start in that good way, and we always start in that prayer, no matter what, things happen, they flow, it's more connected. It's, we're inviting our ancestors to be with us. And so it's like, we're not sitting here alone. Your ancestors are here. My ancestors are here
Mm-hmm.
speaking with us. They show up. And so, it's taken me a lot just to even get to that. And I'm like,
That right.
yeah. And especially too, because then you deal with the native side of things and like, oh, you're speaking in English. Oh, you're praying in English. Oh, you're not praying in your language. Oh, okay. So you're Christianized. So there's this whole other thing too. So it's
There's
like,
two battles on two sides that you're constantly fighting all of the time. It seems like it really is. And a lot of people don't understand that either. And it's like, but why, like in your heart, that it doesn't matter what you pray in. Even if you
right,
were praying in your head, they can still feel you. It's your vibrations and your energies that you're putting out there and up,
right.
and that you're spreading around. That's what matters. Doesn't matter how it comes out. You can sing it in a song. You can do it in art, language you're using, because we're all speaking to the same creator, and it's all in us. And that's the hard part. It's just, you get to that point where you're like, you know what, like, I know I can feel it in here, and that's what matters. It doesn't matter. It hurts a little bit, especially when it comes from your family back home sometimes.
Right. Right. It
does.
stings a little bit. You're like, that's when you have to,
Yeah,
that's
like,
when I have to tell myself, I'm like, Rachel, just remember, just rise above, just keep walking, just love them. They're not there yet. They're still dealing with their traumas and their things, and just love them. Just love them. And so that's
That's
what I do,
exactly
is
it.
I just love them. I'm like, okay, you're gonna punch me over here, but I'm still gonna love you. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how it is. I'm like, okay, we're all in different spaces, and I'm so thankful for how I grew up and how I was raised, because not saying I didn't have struggles, we definitely did, but it taught me to be who I am, and to think how I think, and to understand. Like, I'm very empathetic towards others, and I try to really understand and come from where they're coming from, growing up with all these other people and things like that. So, when somebody tries to say something harsh or mean to me, I'm always like, okay, I'm sorry that you feel that way, this and this and this. And I explain it the best I can for my intentions, because I always come with good intentions. I don't ever mean anything bad. Like, we're all living on this big earth together here. So let's just try to spread goodness. We all have our struggles, so I'm always constantly trying to, put the positive out there, and, try in a good way all the time, if anything. And, so like, even when I'm speaking to somebody who's trying to speak illy of me sometimes, and there's other times, I'll get certain messages sometimes and people are being cruel and mean. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to delete that. And
right. I'm like, block, delete.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done. That's good.
It's like, I'm going to go smudge that off. I don't need that here right now.
Release that. Woo, we're good.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're like, we're gonna send you in some good way with the smoke right now, and just go that way. I'm not even gonna engage in this. Not gonna waste my time. It's the trickster trying to come in and get us to not, speak our voice, and to get us to go back into that place of like, oh, okay,
of hiding.
Maybe I should keep my mouth shut, and maybe I shouldn't be doing these, these things and helping in this way. But it's like, no, okay. That I always like, I'm like, okay, when the trickster comes out, that must mean that we're doing something good, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. Like, especially, I release these like shirts and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people being like, oh, shouldn't profit off of this. And it's like, no, actually, I'm not profiting. Me and this group of 4 amazing women, we're actually starting up an organization here to help people heal. And we're still working out all the little kinks and things like that involved, because it takes a lot of work. And
right.
then, we all have children, and,
yeah.
homeschooling, and COVID's a little crazier over here. So we got to like restrict. They're way more stricter here,
Right.
So a lot of us are housebound. And so, like, we're working on that. And like, and that, that's such a big thing. I really don't feel like people should be profiting off of, murdered and missing Indigenous women, things like that. That's why I had such a hard time with, everyone's like, can I buy a print? And I was like, well, what can I do to I don't want to make money off this, but also it costs money to make these things, you know?
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, for the print, whenever I sell one of those, because with the paintings that I do, I usually will make a copy. I'll get my photographer to take a picture, make a copy for myself, and then I send them. And then for a while there, I wasn't making any money to get a copy for myself. So I was just sending the originals off anyways, and then just taking a picture with my phone. And so then, and once that kind of took off, the print started taking off. I'm like, okay, perfect. So now, you know, I can pay for the shipping now. You don't have to pay for the shipping anymore because it made enough money. And then, you know, people were like, I really want it on a shirt. Can I put it on a shirt? And it was becoming, people were trying to make it. And I'm like, it's actually copyrighted. You can't really make a shirt off of it because I don't think you should be profiting it off of it. Like I'm not. So I don't think you should be. Like that's kind of, you know, weird. Yeah. And so then, you know, I made these shirts and stuff, and then that's what we're doing. We want to make an organization to help people heal, especially our youth and our children, you know, status or non-status. And that's kind of, you know, our goal and what we're trying to do here, especially here, you know. And yeah, I'm still painting pictures, you know. I just don't post it on social media just because it's for the family, and usually they'll post them and they'll tag me in it, but yeah, I do a lot of them that don't get posted either. Occasionally I'll do the thing, hey, if anybody, just email me, and if I didn't get back to you, I'm so sorry. Sometimes it's just, and you know, that's why I'm always like, just email be patient. Yeah, I was like, email me, because sometimes people will go through Instagram, Facebook, and I have 2 Facebook accounts, and it's like, hey, wait, we're lost, and it goes into the spam folder, and it gets very complicated. I'm like, I swear, I was like, I do want to paint your picture, and I really do want to do that for you. It gets lost. Email works so much better.
Right. Yeah. Instead of having to go back and forth and, you know, all these different places. And
yeah,
I was looking at I actually am going to get one of your sweatshirts. I was going to order it today when we get off. I saw them and I was like, oh, I really want that. They're really beautiful.
They're so beautiful.
And I love the message. I love, you know, what you're doing with it, and how you're using that money to turn around, and you know, you're not using it for your profit. And you know, that's what I really honored, you know, too, with what you're doing. And that's when, you know, someone's really doing something from their heart, you know. And it's a gift that you're sharing and things like that. And so, you know, I want to honor that and thank you for being connected and being, you know, sharing your gift and being strong to share your gift and your voice with people. And, you know, anybody that, you know, maybe have, you know, a missing family, you know, get a hold of Tristen, and she can do a painting for you, for your loved one. And I'll be sharing this on some of the other missing Indigenous pages, so they can see this as well and things like that. And I just want to say thank you. And do you have anything you would like to leave everybody with, a message?
Yes. Yeah, I would. If, you know, if they did and they never ended up receiving their painting or anything, because before I used to just ship them regular mail, so I couldn't get tracking on them because it was way more expensive. If they never received them, to just give me a call. I usually keep copies, and then I can just do it again, you know, because there was a time when there was just so many and it was just me. And now I have an assistant, but before it was very, very complicated and all over the place. And I felt bad because maybe some people didn't get them and some people did. And, you know, I'd send a picture and I'd try to write down everybody's name and be like, okay, here's yours, and here's yours. And it was very, you know, all over the place for a little bit. But yeah, like we're doing this thing now, like we're doing everybody, like all Indigenous, like men, you know, women, Two-Spirit, anybody. Like if you have any painting that you would like to get done, just message me through email, please. Email's the best way.
I love it. And then we'll put your email in the comments too, so that it's in there. Or did we put that in the bio? I can't remember if we put it in your bio. Okay. So but you can find her on the follows. If you look in the comments, all of her places to follow her and everything is located at the bottom of that. So you can email her and contact her and things like that. And I just want to thank you again for coming on today and, you know, being vulnerable and sharing your story and what you're doing. And, you know, thank you, sister.
Thank you so much for having me.
for what you're doing and being a rising warrior. You know, it's an honor to have you on here today.
It's an honor to be on here. I really, truly appreciate it and allowing me to share, my message and, helping me heal through art the best I can, because I just paint, and I'm doing the best I can.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a beautiful job, and everybody check her out and reach out to her. She's doing some beautiful things. So I hope you all have a beautiful day, and we will see you later. Have a good day.